Welcome back to another episode of Birthing Beyond 35. We're back. I'm very sorry that it has taken a little while to get an episode up and running. I'm finally back to work after 3 years off. You know, stay-at-home mum life is over. Back to the career grind. So juggling Cooper still at home with me, dealing with all of that, and also recovering from COVID, which was super fun. So dealing with a lot, but making it work. So excuse me if you have been like, yo, what's going on? Haven't seen an episode in like forever. I've got a whole bunch that I've been sitting here trying to get out. So here is an episode today. So I'm sorry for that delay. And today's episode is super great. Joining the show is Chia Mosley. She's on Instagram. She has her own website. Her website is called pregnancy over40.com. And what makes her story super great is she's super progressive. She's really positive. And her story is she was just doing her thing. She was rolling along, really focused on her career, was in the hospitality industry, became an entrepreneur, was doing her thing, living out in Vegas, and was very much like not interested in settling, was with a guy who didn't want kids, and she was nearing her 40s, and she was like, you know what? I'm going to peace out. I'm not going to settle. And good on her. And she ended up meeting someone else. And there goes my alarm. Good one. So she ended up meeting the right guy, and she conceived naturally at 46, and she had her first baby at 47. Not a scenario most envision or most would ever want when they're sitting there going, hey, what's my life's plan? But it worked out for her. So she does give a lot of hope for women out there who perhaps are sitting there with the wrong guy, are sitting there thinking, you know what, I'm 40 now, life's over for me. I'm 44, it's all over. Because you know what, it's never over. Life is long, shit changes, everything can change in a whim. So she's a great guest. I'm really excited to get this up. So I really hope you enjoy today's show. And once again, apologies for the delay. It's worth the wait, and you're really going to enjoy listening to her. Joining me on the show today on Birthing Beyond 35 is Chia Mosley. Chia, I'm very excited and very grateful that you joined me today. Your Instagram has been blowing up. I've been watching you slowly from afar, purely because if I got this right, you had your very first baby naturally at 46. Is that correct?
I conceived her at 46 and delivered her at 47, but all else is correct.
That is amazing. So let's go back a little bit. Why don't you tell me a little bit? Growing up, had you always wanted children?
Absolutely. I always wanted children. I wanted the, American dream,
Mm-hmm.
the husband, the house, the 2.2 kids in a house, and a dog,
Mm-hmm.
that was always like what I was imagining for myself. And then time has a way of not stopping. And then you look up and things just look different than what you thought.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about that if you don't mind? So let's look at your standard, American dream. Most people in their 20s, majority are off, they go to college, they get married, yada yada. What was Chia doing in her 20s?
I was in college. Yeah, let's see. I graduated,
Mm-hmm.
I think called bachelor's when I was 21. And I went into the workforce because
Yep.
I had this naive fixation about working in corporate America and how great that would be to work in an office. And I quickly...
That's not naive. That's just curiosity. That's what you wanted to do at the time. That's okay.
It's what I wanted to do at the time, but it did have a naivety to it, which just came from, lack of living and experience. But then you get in there and you find out what that life is all about. And so then I decided to pivot and go to graduate school and get my master's degree in hotel administration because I wanted to work in the hospitality industry. And so then by my upper 20s, I was back in school again, in graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
so that's what I was doing. And in between those, I traveled a lot. Like I did the whole backpack through Europe thing, if you will, when I
Nice.
graduated undergrad. Kind of see the world and things. So I was in Europe for 3 months, and that was an experience I would never trade.
Yeah, and I would say like in America, like where I'm from, like Australia, New Zealand, that's very standard. Like Australians and New Zealanders, they go off and they backpack, they see the world, they go off overseas for 2, 3 years. Like there's not that pressure to quickly go and get a job, you know. So that's great that you did that. And I assume with, wanting to be in the hospitality industry, you're then working nights and doing a lot of that kind of stuff, which doesn't really lead to, I guess, having a normal social life, correct?
Actually, no. I didn't have much night work as a result of my hospitality because even hospitality does in have a 9 to 5 component to it
Okay.
as well. So I was working in a trade show industry, which was actually a lot of fun and things like that, but still, oops, it's still corporate America. So then I wind up launching my own business for a while,
Okay.
actually. I started getting my first taste of entrepreneurship.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think that you know, the fact of not being married and not having a burden of, I shouldn't call it a burden, but that's the
Responsi
wrong word, responsibility.
responsibility of time. Yeah.
Responsibility, yes, did allow me to kind of learn and pivot and have fun and figure things out on my own pace and schedule. That's for sure.
Yeah, and just to have that freedom and
Hmm.
yeah, just to be able to do all of those things that you wanted to
Absolutely.
do. Yeah. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I can relate to that. So I guess had you had any long-term relationships throughout that period?
I did. And I did. And I had some heartbreaks. And I also had my period where honestly, I broke hearts
Hmm.
as well. And, I make sure to sprinkle that in and around my stories because I notice on social media there's a lot of man bashing.
There is.
But the reality is any one of us as women have to face the fact that we had our own faults. And I definitely had moments where like, I remember a guy, he was madly in love with me, and I broke his heart. I wasn't willing to be faithful to him. And, I was hot shit, had a nice body. I'm in Las Vegas, and I was out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say I was out there like going around out there, but I was out there
Yeah, I get it.
and living my best life and just unwilling to commit to
Mm.
someone regardless of anything. And so I went through that phase too. I could say I was like a little bit mannish, if you will,
No, I get it.
but catch me if you can.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that is so true. But there aren't guys sitting around on social media making little memes about women. That is such a good point. It is all the women kind of bashing the men. That is such a good point, though.
It's
So when I
but
guess,
we're all so perfect and like we've never broken hearts. I know I have.
yeah, it's true. God, that's a whole nother. Yeah, the guys need a podcast for themselves. So I guess at
Yeah.
what point were you? I guess when was the kind of how old were you? I guess where when you were, I guess, in a stage where you were considering perhaps the first stage of perhaps one day having children with someone.
That stayed with me from my 20s through 30s. It
Hmm.
was like an assumption. When I was in college, I was madly in love. Like I was so in love, the love of my life. And then he cheated on me and he broke my heart. But from the moment of being with him, from an upper teenager, I knew that I wanted to be married and have children. And that's never something that left me. It just never happened. It's
Hmm.
not like the desire subsided that entire time, even like being in graduate school and living in Las Vegas. I always thought that I would meet the guy.
Hmm.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
but because I never had a problem meeting someone, like meeting a guy or even meeting a nice guy was never a problem. Meeting the guy
Yeah.
was more the issue, but I always thought that he would show up and then I would settle with that guy. And then
Mm.
he just never came.
Yeah. And so I guess was there ever a moment, I guess, when you were getting to an age where you were like, hmm, getting a
Mm-hmm.
little concerned here?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I found a guy. I found myself in love with a guy who I thought could be the guy. except for one problem.
How old are you at this point? Sorry for interrupting, but how old are you at this point in your life?
I'm in my upper 30s.
Okay.
I'm in my upper 30s at this point. And I really find this individual, and I think we are compatible and we're going to make it work. But the only problem is that he doesn't actually ever want to get married or have children.
Mm-hmm. Did you know
So
that
then,
did you know that from initially when you started
yeah,
dating that he was
Ye-
like, yeah. Did you think you could change him perhaps? Or,
yes,
okay. Yeah. Okay.
yes, I thought he would change.
Mm-hmm.
That's a no-no.
Yeah.
That's a no-no.
Good lesson off the bat there for everyone listening.
And I got to tell you, a man once told me that. He says, women get with men hoping that he'll change, and a man gets with a woman hoping she never will.
Hmm.
Isn't that interesting? Like, so, and I think there might be some validity to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that he would change as time went on, but he didn't. And so in the end, that wind up being a problem for us. But here's the deal. What I wanted to tell you was I kind of started to convince myself that maybe I didn't really want to have children, because if I really wanted to have children, I would have had them already, because I'm a go-getter enough person. And if I really wanted those children, there's no shortage of men that would have given me a baby. And
Mm-hmm.
so maybe I didn't really want children, and that's okay. And heck, my mom and dad, they didn't get married officially until they had been together almost 40 years before they actually legally got married. They had just been together. So I convinced myself that the baby was not really a big deal and
Mm-hmm.
marriage isn't everything, because look, my mom and dad didn't get married, and they wound up being together all those years and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So
But what I
you're
learned is,
starting to lower your own standards at this point. You're starting to deny what you want just to try
yep,
and be with this guy.
yep,
Mm-hmm.
that's right. That's right. I call it my biggest violation of personal integrity, because yeah, that's really, really what it was for me. And so it started to rear its head, because his unwillingness to get married was only really about lack of commitment. It's not even that even today that I have these big, huge ideals about marriage, but his unwillingness at that time was a manifestation of something else.
Mm-hmm.
And it started to rear its head, and it got very uncomfortable. And in the end, he wound up breaking up with me because he could see I was miserable.
Yeah.
Hmm. But this is
Yeah.
again the same one that then wound up circling back
Yeah.
some years later, realizing the error of his ways. But by that time, I had already met my current partner, and so what?
So
You
when
know,
you left this guy, how old were you when you guys broke up? 38,
40,
39. How old?
40, 41.
Wow. So okay, so mentally, Chia, when she's leaving when this relationship is split up, how are you mentally at this point when you're thinking about your future? Are you thinking, I think that's it. I think I've missed my chance to have children. Love,
Yep.
what are you thinking?
My exact quote was this: I wasted my last childbearing years on a man who didn't want to have children.
Wow. How long were you single for
Hmm.
until you met the father of your child now? You can
Um,
recall.
4 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
then there was a guy, there was a
Mm-hmm.
man who I had known for some time, but we had lost touch of each other and then
Mm-hmm.
reconnected. And it all seemed so beautiful. And it was like a 60-day whirlwind. And then
Mm-hmm.
COVID hit. And then all the instability that COVID brought,
Mm-hmm.
like shook some things loose in that one, that I didn't see coming. And that relationship fizzled out really fast because he
Okay.
became very financially unstable. And
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't a problem for me. I had my own money,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't hold up very well and wind up leaving Las Vegas and moving back
Okay.
to New York and just leaving me, left me behind to go save
Yeah.
himself. And I was like, okay. So, you know, there was that in between.
Mm-hmm.
It was very short lived and very strange and devastating.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I hit a point where I decided to leave Las Vegas because now I live in Florida. COVID moved me out to greener pastures. It was just too hot and too shut down in Las Vegas. So I came here where I could at least
Mm-hmm.
go to the beach.
Yeah.
And I met my man here.
And you'd never met this man previously. The first time you'd ever met him was when you moved back to Florida or moved to Florida.
moved to Florida. I've never lived here before. Yeah, I met him. But I met him on the heels of making a decision that that's it. I'm meeting my man. Like literally, I wrote down all the things I was looking for
I
in a
love it. See,
man.
I love this. I love manifestation. I'm very big on thinking positivity, manifest it, and it will come if you speak it into existence, so to speak.
Yeah,
So tell
you got
me
to
about your
speak.
list.
You got to speak it, and you got to write it.
Yeah. Tell
Right.
me about this
And
list.
you want to like, what?
No,
What's it all about?
no, I just like, I think it's important for people to hear this stuff that it can work.
Right. So it's not just about like a list.
Yeah.
It's about a whole scene. Like what would me and this man be trying to accomplish together? What would be common goals? What are things that he would like to do so we could do together? What is his relationship like with his family? Does he have friends? Then, of course, there's I wanted to be 5'10" and have this kind of body and this kind of
Hmm.
personality and things like that. But it was also like, how would we interact together? And by being together, what would we be able to create together? Because I think a lot of times women are looking at the man has to have this car and this money and this job and this.
Yeah,
And
so
yes,
not important.
so not important because
Yeah.
money can come and go. I'm going to tell you, I come from a Hollywood family.
Hmm.
My dad was hot shit celebrity in the 80s. He was on Magnum PI
Oh, nice.
and original.
Hmm.
And we had the Rolls Royce, we had the Porsche, we had the big house on a hill, we
Hmm.
had the trips to Hawaii, limousine. Like I lived a very unique upbringing for a Black
Hmm.
woman in America at that time. And for many, like I lived a very, very unique lifestyle, but I saw how it could get lost.
Hmm.
And I saw how my mom helped my dad rebuild. And so these things for me, when I look at a man, I look at, does he have the qualities to build something? Because you can get blindsided by something and have your money taken away unless you achieve true wealth. But if you're rich, like my dad was rich, we weren't wealthy, but he was rich.
Yeah.
Um, but it can be taken away. And so I was looking for qualities in man that make him stable. Man, because the last one,
Yeah.
COVID hit and he destabilized, like
Hmm.
emotionally and mentally, he destabilized.
Yeah.
And so I had all these characteristics that I'm looking for that you can build with. And man, I met him and I recognized him immediately because I had worked it over so thoroughly.
That's so good. Yeah, I think, yeah, like you say, I think it comes with it comes with age and wisdom and going out with the wrong men and knowledge and things like that. And like you say,
Yeah,
like there are many guys that have money but are just, immature or just have been brought up with a really bad upbringing and don't know what a good relationship is, et cetera, et cetera.
et
Um,
cetera, et
yeah,
cetera. It's
it's
like,
only
don't
now as
fall
I get
for
older and older that I would look more at these kind of qualities. And I think, moving forward and stuff, as opposed to what we did when we were younger, when we're just like, oh, I hope they're tall. And that stuff doesn't matter. Stuff doesn't matter when you're both 60 years old. And because you want to live 30, 40 years with this person. You want
That's right.
longevity. You want longevity. You want respect. You want a friendship. You want, things that you can build upon.
That's right. It's like the hair is going to fall out. We're going to
Exactly.
gain weight of
Our
some sort.
boobs are
Like
going to sag. It's all going to fall apart.
it's all going to fall apart. Like we're not going to all look hot shit into the
Yeah.
grave. We're going to age as
Yeah.
well as we can, but it's so irrelevant
Yeah,
when all is said and done.
you see the sweet old couples walking down the street, and it's like, that's what you want. You want that friendship. You want that companionship
Yep,
as
that's right.
you age. Okay, so you meet him. Okay, so what are you now? You're 44 at this point, 45?
Yeah, yes. I'm 40. Let me see. Was he around for my birthday? No, I'm 44.
Okay. Had
44.
you tested your fertility at this point? Did you know what you were kind of dealing with?
No, I, like many women, made an assumption that I
Yeah.
was just quote unquote too old.
Okay. And what was his kind of mindset with trying for children? Was it kind of like,
Um,
hey, let's just see what happens and we'll go from there?
it was an evolution that involved parts and pieces. So I'll tell it succinctly. It started with the fact that we started having unprotected sex.
Hmm.
So I said, hey, about this because I period. And so what, like in a regular period. And
Mhm.
so do you want to have children? Because this is what this could result in. And, I can see a little smile come on his
Mhm.
face. And he nods and says he would like that. And I say, okay, I would too. Like that would be great. That was the first conversation. It was very light, very gentle like that.
Mhm.
And then his friends would start asking his friends, not so much mine, but now that I think about it, hey, do you think you want to have children? You
Mhm.
think you want to have children?
Mhm.
And so we would say, yeah, we're willing. We said it was last call because of our ages. Like,
Yeah.
hey, it's last call. Like if it happens, it
May
would
I
be great.
ask how old he was at the time?
40, he was 42. He's
Okay.
actually
Yep.
younger than me. I'm a cougar. Okay.
Stop. Stop.
Um, yeah, yeah. But yeah, just because of our ages, we knew there wasn't a lot of time left on the clock. And then, so we talked about it a little more here and there. And then I told him, I was like, listen, totally willing to have a baby, but I don't want to do IVF or anything because it just seems like it's too stressful for my age. Like, what are the chances of having a baby? So I don't want to force the issue. Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to have to be like magic, basically. And
Yeah.
if the baby's just going to have to, if she coming, if he or she is coming, they just had to come using your sperm and my egg. And he was like, yeah, I agree. Like, I don't want to do all that other stuff. And I was like, me
Yeah.
either. And that was it.
Mhm.
And so we didn't.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I never took any time to get medical tests for my hormones or test my fertility or anything like
Yeah.
that because
Just left
that
it
was
to the
like,
universe.
yeah,
Mhm. And
yeah.
how long did
And
it
then I and
take?
then I did get pregnant. I got pregnant at 45,
So
and
how long had you been trying for? Do you recall?
we weren't trying. Remember, this is not a try. This is just if it
Yes,
happens, it
sorry.
happens.
You're sorry. Okay. Yes,
We were
correct.
willing. I
Willing.
think
Yes,
the
correct.
correct word is just that we were never trying. We were just always willing. Our baby was always welcome, but never demanded.
Okay, I like it. Okay. Okay,
Mhm.
so boom, here you are. You're now pregnant
Yep.
at
And I'm
46,
45. Nope.
45,
Nope. 45. This is the
45.
first pregnancy with
Yes,
him.
correct. Sorry. Yes, so tell
And
me
I
about
go
that. How did you feel? Were you just like, oh my gosh, so blessed, so excited?
mixed emotions, too nervous to be excited
Hmm.
because as soon as you go to Google to read
Yeah.
anything about it, it's all about the quality of your eggs and how likely is it and blah blah blah. There's way too much bad news
Yeah.
for me to allow myself to get excited. So
Hmm.
just at week 6, I start to get excited. I say, you know what? This is happening and you need to stop with the worry and you need to get excited. And literally the moment I had that thought, I got up, I went to the bathroom, and I was bleeding.
Yeah.
And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So the following Monday, I went to my OB, and she's like, hey, just because you're bleeding doesn't mean that you're losing a baby. It's not necessarily the case. So she starts testing my HCG levels. Is that the
Hmm.
HCG levels?
Hmm.
And they just weren't moving. Like we had to test a couple of times, and then finally she determined pregnancy is not viable. And so we I don't want to say terminated it because
Yeah.
it wasn't gonna be
This wasn't
anything.
viable. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, it just
understand.
wasn't viable,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't gonna turn
Wasn't
into
gonna,
anything.
yeah, wasn't gonna, what's the word? Wasn't going to, I understand. Yeah.
Called a blunted ovum is what
Hmm.
the technical term for that was. So I was given some sort of pill or something to insert vaginally to help it release
Yeah,
and come
just,
out, and that was that. And then 10 months later, I conceived again.
it's awesome.
Hmm.
How did you feel mentally after that? Did you feel like, you know what? That was really awful, but we know we can get pregnant. Did you take positivity away from it?
I did. I definitely took
Good.
positivity away from it because the doctor I was working with at that time really was supportive of me and that fact. She was like, a lot of women can't even conceive. The fact
Yeah,
that you can get pregnant at your age is really good news.
exactly. Yeah.
I also took it up as a spiritual matter and spoke it over with, church council and, just to make sure that I wasn't harboring uh, fear. Like I don't like to carry fear. Fear is a
Yeah,
big thing for me to let go and to
definitely.
recognize when I've encountered something that could make me afraid and to let it go because there's no need
Yeah.
in
Feel
carrying
it.
past.
Yeah, feel it and then let it out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Acknowledge
yeah.
it.
It's one thing to learn and take information, but it's another thing to take the emotion,
Yeah, to harbor it. Yeah.
harbor it, right?
Yeah.
So I came whole with myself in that way, just to make sure, which was very therapeutic and helpful for me. And yeah, so I was able to walk forward with a fresh perspective and have the door open for it to happen again. Because I'll tell you that 6 weeks of pregnancy, I did get excited about, like, oh my God, I did
Of
actually always
course.
want to be a mom, and I did actually always want to have a family. This is what I always wanted.
Of
And
course.
that got sparked. That
Yeah.
got sparked, and I didn't want to lose that again because I knew that that was the truth.
So how did you approach things the second time when you got that good news?
Still,
Excited wise.
still nervous.
Yeah,
When
of
it happened, I
course.
was like, uh-oh.
And now I guess you're
Still,
46, so you're like, oh, I guess
yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
I guess you're like Googling those percentages. You're like, oh, I've even got a smaller chance now because now I'm a year
It's,
older.
the internet is the enemy of the
Yeah.
woman who is pregnant after 40.
Hmm.
It is why I go so hard on my social media,
Yeah.
because I needed to see a
Correct.
woman like me when I
Thousand
was
percent.
pregnant.
That was me. I was just like, oh my God, anyone that I could see that was over 40 that had a baby, I'm like, yes. I'd love to see
You
that.
just you
You
just
need to see
need
it.
to see it. You
Yeah.
need to see it. And so it took me a minute. It really, really took me a minute to come whole with myself and to stop the worry. And that is the birthplace of my social media journey, because the way that I handled that was to start talking about it,
Yeah.
start sharing my journey. Because I remember a friend of mine, guy friend, he had his first baby in his upper 40s.
Hmm.
His wife is in her upper 30s, and he was in his upper 40s. And he was so happy for me. And I wouldn't get happy.
Yeah,
And I
you
was like,
wouldn't,
well, I would
you wouldn't
say, if
allow
the
that
baby comes,
excitement.
yeah, I couldn't
Yeah.
allow it. I'd be like, well, if the baby comes, if he was like, stop saying if you're having the
Mhm.
baby.
Yeah. It's always
So
different
I,
for a guy, I think, to think that way, you know, a
yeah,
little bit
he
different.
just is such a champion of me and thinks so highly of me. And he could see that I
Yeah.
was healthy and I'm vibrant, and there's no reason to worry about it except
Yeah.
the fact that I had had the miscarriage a month before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe like there is research that like, once the baby, once in utero, like your body knows what to do. Like it's there. It's the job is pretty much done now. It's just your body knows how to have the baby. It's just pretty much the hardest bits are just getting it there.
I
Um,
tell you, that's right.
but
That's
people
right. And
forget that.
getting out of your own way.
Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah, the hardest bit is just getting there. Okay, so you're now happily pregnant. What was it like, I guess? What was your experience like with doctors and all of that going through, being advanced maternal age?
Hmm. All in all, it was good.
Good.
Honest. All in all, it was good. But sprinkled with, there was something that was missing, that I feel like, again, the women successfully doing it all naturally at 40. The
Mm-hmm.
doctors just don't really talk to you about that. For
Mm-hmm. Because
example,
they're
the big,
yeah, because they're doctors. That's why I was going to say they're not midwives.
because
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So for example, the preeclampsia.
Hmm.
Like I'm not big on drugs.
No, I'm this. I was the same. I didn't want to have any drugs at all, and in the end, I had to have everything. I won't get into my birth right now, but yeah, everything that I didn't want to have happen ended up happening. But tell me about your experience. Yeah, I wanted to be like, I don't want anything, and none of that worked. But tell me about your experience.
Yeah, but and honestly, that could probably be the case for younger women too. But for me, it was the blood pressure management
Hmm.
conversations across with all the doctors when they would look at me with wide eyes and disbelief because I didn't want to take the baby aspirin
Yeah,
to
yeah,
prevent it. The
yeah.
wide eyes with even the
Yeah.
sweetest, well, why? Well, we really recommend because of your age.
But
And
let me guess, your blood pressure was fine all the time, correct?
yeah,
Yeah. But research shows.
research shows, but they never tell you, okay, if you don't want to take the baby aspirin, here is what you could look into. They never suggest anything else. You're on your own. If you want to do something
Yeah,
different than that, you're on your own. And maybe it's for legal reasons. Like I can think with that. Like,
it's just a cookie cutter thing for every single woman, and every single woman is different. Like, It's just like, here's a baby aspirin. Every single woman is different. Some don't take care of themselves at all. Like, this is America, let's be honest. And we,
Yeah.
like, it's true. Some eat crap dairy cheese every single day, like, and white bread. Like, I'm sorry, but it's true. And yeah, it's just like, you have this one bit of research, like, oh, baby aspirin helps. And yet it's just like, let's like every single person take it. And just, I feel like you and I could talk forever about this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's just frustrating. And, and just like, I don't know about you, but it's like, hey, we should really induce you at 39 weeks. And it's like, no, I don't want to be induced at 39 weeks. Give me a reason why.
Yep.
Like, there was no reason. Like, my blood pressure was fine every single time. Fluid was fine every single time. Like, I was A+ student. Even my OB was like, I wish all my patients were as healthy as you. But yet she still was like trying to make me come in early to be induced. Frustrating.
Yeah, it is. And so those are the things where I never felt like I was allowed to relax.
Let that would listen
Yeah,
or
well, no,
appreciate your
I
opinion.
not even I don't need them to appreciate my opinion. Like that's not even what I mean. I mean never being allowed to relax and just enjoy my pregnancy.
Got it. That would be
There's
okay. Got it.
Yeah, like there's always something to kind of be on edge about.
Gotcha. Okay.
But right, like just the baby making its milestones, right? Like, okay,
Mhm.
great. Oh, but now, yeah, the baby aspirin. Oh, okay, now the induction. Oh, all the tests. And is the baby have this? Does the baby have that? Like, you
Mhm.
don't get to just
Chill. Just
feel
be
and feel
happy
good
and
up
excited.
to the bitter freaking end. You carry that baby full term, and now they're telling you you might have a stillbirth. Yeah. You're like, well, for freak's sake, man.
Yeah. So talk me through your those final weeks. How far along did you go?
I carried her full term. I
Awesome.
got to 41 weeks, but
Nice.
because I was so nervous about, you know, the induction
Hmm.
and, being sent to the hospital, I started talking to my midwives about natural
Hmm.
labor induction techniques. But in the weeks before, I will tell you this. Let me rewind because you asked me about the weeks.
Yeah. No, of course.
I opted to do the weekly stress test, which I think was the last 4 weeks of pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because I said, okay, well, I got the baby, I got my girl this far. I would hate for something wrong
Of
to
course.
happen that could have been prevented if I just hooked up to the monitor weekly. And I was kind of like I like to see her heart
I did
rate,
that as well. I did that as well because I just wanted to see her. Yeah.
Yeah, anything I could do to be nosy and peek in on what my baby is
Of
doing.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was doing those weekly, and the as I approached week 39, the midwife started talking to me about that, the what ifs and what I want to induce. So
Hmm.
I did a membrane sweep,
Hmm.
right? At 30, I think it was 39 weeks that were willing to do the membrane sweep. And I said, okay, because I would rather causatively induce my labor this way than like be sent to the hospital and be given Pitocin and all that
Yeah.
jazz,
Hmm.
right? So we did the membrane sweep, nothing happened. I dilated a bit, nothing happened. No problem. I come back the next week. She's like, hey, we could try it again. And I said, okay, cool. So we try it again. An hour and a half later, I'm sitting in a CVS parking lot to buy some castor oil because that was going to be my next
Yeah.
attempt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my water breaks in the
Nice.
CVS parking lot. And I'm like, oh, shoot. So I'm like, all right. So I give them a call and say, hey, my water broke. And they're like, okay, listen, it could take your body up to 11 hours to go into active labor, just so you
Hmm.
know. So I'm thinking I have time. Now, on this day, I was a little tired. I didn't get all the sleep that I needed, and I hadn't eaten because my plan was after my doctor's appointment, I'm gonna go home, eat, and take a nap. But no, my water broke. So now I'm texting, honey, like texting job, like where is he? Gotta get the man home. Texting all my friends, calling everybody. Water broke. It's happening. An hour and a half labor. I'm in intense active labor you
Wow,
ever
that's so
want.
exciting.
No, it's not because I didn't sleep and I hadn't eaten.
I know, not the best prep.
So that made labor very, very challenging for me.
Sorry, you cut out for a second there. So what was your labor like?
Rough because I
Mhm.
couldn't hold down food and I was tired.
Mm.
So I labored in the birthing center up to hour 22. And I was so exhausted. Like I did try to get some sleep in the middle of the night. Like we slowed the labor down. and I got some quote unquote sleep, but I was still having contractions like every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was being woken up out my sleep every 15 minutes. So I never got rest. I was
Yeah.
exhausted. I tried to eat again in the morning, vomited again.
Mm.
Um, Took some castor oil though to get the contractions back up going. And I was laboring, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was so exhausted. I threw in a towel
Yeah.
because
That's
when you're in a
okay.
birthing center, you have to deliver legally here anyway within 24 hours, or else they have to send you to the hospital just legally.
Oh, I didn't
I
know
said,
that.
I
Okay.
can't deliver this baby on the clock. Like, I need rest. I want the fucking epidural. I need to
Yep.
sleep. I like,
Anything
just
help.
that's it.
Yeah.
So we wind up transferring me to the hospital. And the reason why I mentioned the heart rate earlier is because they hooked me up to the heart rate monitor in the hospital, and my baby's heart starts crashing.
Mm-hmm.
And so in transport between the birthing center and the hospital, she had a bowel movement. So then they see
Yeah,
meconium.
meconium. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And her heart rate's crashing. And so we had to make the call to go the C-section route because I knew what her heart rate looked like.
Yeah.
I said, this is not good. And it, like, she crashed. Okay, fine. They flip me over. They kind of do some things, crashes again. Okay, we do something. And then it's like crash, crash, crash. Nurse hits a button. Like 8 ladies in blue show up right away. And I said,
Yeah,
oh
they're
shit,
fast. I had a
they're fast.
C-section. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
fast.
When things are not going right, they stop talking and they start getting
Yeah.
active. And that's what happened. And I knew we had to pull her out. So that's what we did.
It's still a beautiful experience though.
It sure was. I kind of, at least I got to experience labor.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know what I
You
mean?
did you
It's
did your thing. You did everything that you could possibly do.
yeah. And I always tell women, you don't take it for granted. When people tell you kick your feet up those last few weeks, sit the F down, kick
Yeah.
your feet up, eat, because you don't know when game time is going to hit.
Yeah.
And you have to be ready. And labor is labor. And
Yeah,
this
it's your
is my,
Super Bowl, basically.
it's your
Yeah.
Super Bowl. Don't go to
Prepare.
Super Bowl tired.
Yeah. 100%. What was your postpartum like? What was it like getting baby home and your breastfeeding experience?
My postpartum experience was great. I
Awesome.
will tell women I do not recommend C-sections if you could avoid one. Like women who
Yeah.
schedule C-sections, unless there's a medical reason why,
Mm-hmm.
they're so tough on your body.
Mm-hmm.
It does interfere with how you interact with your baby because you can't bend and lift. Like it's one
Yeah.
thing if you do vaginal and your vajayjay is all torn up, but you
Yeah.
don't use your vagina to lift,
Yeah.
but you use your abs for everything. And so that part of it was very uncomfortable and very challenging in the beginning for sure.
Yeah, because you're just
But
not ready to do that. You're not ready to be like, oh, cool, now I can't like sit up properly and all of that stuff. You're
oh
not
my
ready for
God,
that.
the
It's not something you think
simple,
about
the
while
simple
laying your
act,
baby across your stomach at the same time trying to breastfeed.
yeah, it's challenging. But I made do, and I did the thing that works the best, which is walk. When you have
Mm-hmm.
a C-section, they tell you to walk the same counter. It is correct. I did a lot of slow shuffling. It's not a normal walk.
Yeah,
It's a show shuffle,
get that blood
shuffle,
flowing. Yeah.
the blood flowing, and that really did help with my recovery. But my baby latched very easily. And then on about day 3, she just stopped latching, just absolutely refused, like just wouldn't get on the boob for nothing.
Mm.
And I wound up taking her to I had a prenatal chiropractor who also works with babies. I told her what was happening. I brought her in. She got some adjustments, and she went back on the boob.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so we never have struggled with breastfeeding. Like, thank God that was great. I can tell you, I feel like I had an excellent pregnancy, had an excellent postpartum, and it's just more of the proof that this over 40 business does not have to dictate
Yeah.
your prenatal, postpartum recovery.
Yeah,
The
this
whole
could all
process
happen. Yeah. It could all happen
can
to
be
women in their
beautiful.
20s and 30s as well.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I did as well as these young broads did probably even better. Because I've
1000%.
heard of
Same. I
some
kicked
women who
ass.
struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kicked ass. I kicked ass.
Before I let you go, I just, for the women that are going to be, listening to this and, for the ones scrolling the Instagram page, what is your advice for that woman sitting there, sitting with the guy that is, doesn't want to give her a baby, but she's like, oh, maybe he'll change his mind one day, or the woman that is thinking that it's all over for her. What does Chia say to them?
So what I would say to women who are like in their upper 30s, lower 40s, still hoping to conceive, one, know your hormone levels. I think I was lucky with my conception, right? But you don't actually have to rely on luck. You can start working with your OB to know what your fertility odds are, and then work to start to remedy things. Many things about our hormones can be fixed with diet, supplementation, and many other means. So you don't have to rely on luck like I did. Two, don't settle for bad relationships. If you're in a bad relationship, go ahead and end it, let it go. Because when you introduce a baby, babies tax your relationships. They don't actually immediately enhance them. You're sleep deprived. It can impinge on the finances. It impinges on the sex life. And so you need to be with somebody who you know can withstand all of that and be with you and understand it. And mainly, the other thing is just simply take care of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually. Like, be whole so that when your baby does arrive, they're getting the best version of you. So if you know that you've got physical disadvantages, like maybe you need to lose a little bit of weight or handle a physical condition, or you know that you're still broken up from the previous relationship, like handle these things before the next man or before the baby comes. It's like you have an opportunity to get yourself right. Do that, do that, do that, do that. That's my advice.
No, that was perfect. And Chia, can you just tell us the name of the link us to? Now I can't say words. Tell us how people can find you and your website again.
Absolutely. So I'm on Instagram at pregnancy over 40, FORTY. I am on TikTok, pregnancy over 40, the numbers 40. And then I have my website with my merch, which is www.pregnancy over40 with 40 spelled out.com. So pregnancy over40.com, where I just have created very lovely merchandise to serve as reminders to women that it is possible. Like, that's my tagline, it's possible. And just to be reminders that whatever it is that you want to accomplish, you can, and not to lose faith in yourself.
I love it. I'm going to link and tag all of that. You were amazing. Thank you so much. You're such a so great talking to you.
You too, as well. It's very, very nice to meet you. And I'm so glad that you reached out to me and that we made this happen. This has been great. And I would do it again if you want to talk about being toddler moms in our 50s, because that will have to be our next segment.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Haley.